Okay. Yep.
It's good morning to Holly Deane-John. Thank you for joining us here at Yellow Shelf.
Hi,
Holly.
Joanne. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. I know you're coming from WA in Australia, and it's morning time for you, but it is afternoon for me here on the East Coast. Uh, Holly, look, I know your story. Your book came out earlier this year, so I feel incredibly privileged to be able to sit here and interview you and talk to you about not only your book, but also about your journey, because that's ultimately what the book's about. So, what does the Yellow Shelf audience need to know about your book? Your book is entitled Holly's Hell: 7 Years in a Thai Prison. So, Holly, I'm going to hand over to you. What do we need to know about this book that's come out?
Yeah, so Joanna, the book is pretty much about my whole life.
Mm.
Um, it starts off, getting to know my family, my family structure,
Yes.
um, how the breakdown of my parents' marriage sort of changed the way my family's life then started to go when my mother met a man she fell in love with, who at the time we didn't know was a heroin addict until many months down the line. Um, and subsequently from that, my mother started using heroin. And later on, all five of us kids started using heroin. We all became addicts. We all ended up in prison because of our heroin addictions. Um, my mother has died from a heroin overdose, as has one of my older brothers and younger sister. So, yeah, my story's about everything that's happened since childhood up until now. So, yeah, I've spent about 17 and a half years of my life in jail. So, pretty much the best years of my life. Um, yeah, I've been in jail both in Western Australia and over in Thailand. Needless to say, Thailand was my worst experience out of the two. But having said that, even though I was sentenced to a 31-year prison sentence, that that pretty much saved my life as well. Because 10 months into that sentence, I stopped using heroin. I used for the first 10 months that I was in there. Look, it was such a traumatic experience going into this Thai prison. I just wanted to be as numb as I could. I didn't want to really know, excuse me, what was going on around me. I just wanted to sort of block it out. Then after 10 months, I woke up one day and I was like, just looking around at my surroundings and the people. And I was just like, you know what, Holly, look where you are. Look what you've done to your life. You're fucked. Your whole life's gone. At that time I hadn't been sentenced yet, but I knew that I'd be there for probably 20 plus years. I knew that. Um, so yeah, it was in that moment that I decided that's it. I will never touch drugs again. And now's the time to make my life the best life I can for myself while I'm here. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I did. Um, Unfortunately for me, it took 7.5 years before I could get the go-ahead to transfer back home, where I served another 5 years before being released on parole. The difference in the Thai prison and the Western Australian prison is we couldn't study in the Thai prison. We weren't allowed to. But back in Australia, everything's available to you. You can get educated on whatever you want. It's all free. So, given that opportunity, I thought, okay, let's do it. I knew I wanted to help people when I got out. Um, I just knew that the life I'd lived and the experiences I've had can help other people who are either in the same situation as me or they might know somebody.
Yeah.
The thing that I've learned as well is that, a lot of normal families, so to speak,
Yeah.
either have someone in their immediate family or
Yeah.
somebody they know who has a drug problem,
Yes.
is experiencing domestic violence, sexual abuse. it's all around us, you know, and as much as people don't want to admit it, it's happening. And look, my life's an open book these days, and it is an open book, because if it's not, how can people grow? How can people learn? You can't. You can't hide the truth, because if you hide the truth, you're not going forward.
Yeah.
That's what I've found. You know, I got out of jail with really severe PTSD and depression. I had to address those issues as well when I got out. When I got out, that took about 2 years to manifest itself. And when it did, I thought I was going crazy. I had no idea what was wrong with me until I went to my doctor.
Yep.
So, yeah, you know, I had to get on medication. I had to do really intense counselling for quite a while. And if I hadn't have done those two things, I wouldn't be sitting here today doing what I've done. I wouldn't have released my book. I wouldn't have, you know, done all the education I've done. I just wouldn't have been able to, because I wasn't in a good headspace.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
like, you have just done an incredible job of probably skimming through your memoir, because we've only got 10 minutes to chat, and there is so much more to your story. There's this journey story of, you know, in some parts it's a love story, in some it's riddled with trauma, with childhood trauma, with, you know, that choices, no choices, you know, like, and the power in what you were just sharing about, you know, when you were given an opportunity to learn, to educate when you came back to Australia, the choices that you made to do that is just incredible. So this is a book people have to read, because our 10-minute interview is never going to give it justice, Holly. But, you know, it's interesting why, like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I read that you almost started writing this book when you first went into the Thai prison. Is that true?
No, excuse me. No, it was actually the day after I'd been arrested. I was sitting in the holding cells.
Yeah.
I asked the cleaner to go and buy me a pen and a notebook.
Yeah.
And I started writing that very first day. I don't know why, but something inside me was saying, start writing, start documenting everything that you're going through.
Yeah.
Because I knew one day, I didn't actually know at the time I would write a book, but I just had this nagging inside me saying, write.
Yeah.
And that's what I did over the whole time. Which is good, because doing it like that, I was getting key details all the time, stuff that I would forget years later. So, yeah, it worked out well.
Yeah, and look, like I said, I mean, there's so much to this book that people just have to read it to kind of understand the journey that you've been on. Holly, do you mind me asking a bit about you now? So I have read, you know, you're a youth worker, a counselor, and you're even a hypnotist. Is that right, these days? So you've gone on this full journey, you've gone on this growth, you know, growth journey as well. What does Holly look like these days?
Yeah, so I studied hypnotherapy when I got out, as well as a lot of other things, because this all ties in with people's well-being.
Yes.
The hypnotherapy. That's a really effective tool for many, many things. So, yeah, these days I'm a motivational speaker, youth worker. Yep. I've just been cleared to be able to go into prisons.
Oh, fabulous.
So it's an exciting time for me, because, you know, I released the book in February, been doing a lot of promotional stuff for that, and doing a lot of travel, podcast, radio, TV. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind, and it's only in the last sort of couple of months that I've been able to sort of relax and sort of, you know, think about navigating my future. So there's a lot of exciting things, you know, happening, which is great. Yeah. You know, the thing for me that's so rewarding is, you know, the talks I've done in front of people who alcoholics or drug addicts, you know, watching people's faces when I'm talking about my story and talking to them afterwards, that's what's so fulfilling,
Mm.
because they then understand that there's hope for them, where
Yeah.
before they thought there wasn't. And the thing I say to people is, you know, I used to be you.
Yeah.
I was you. But
Yes.
look at me now. If
Yeah.
I can do it, you can do it. You
Yeah.
know, that's pretty much my message. If I can do it, you can. It's
Yeah.
not impossible. But for a
Well,
lot of people, it does seem impossible.
and can it get any more impossible than being in a prison in Thailand and now being here now sharing your story like that? Yeah, it's incredible and it's inspiring. And yeah, I think you're a very powerful advocate for what helping people see beyond their current situation.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure.
And Holly, look, I know Yellow Shelf has people all around the world watching. Will watch this interview. Some may have heard your story, some may not have. I know it's certainly in the Southern Hemisphere. It's been a huge story. How do we connect with you? What if we're curious about the book? Can you give us some direction? I'll put it in the show notes to make it easy for everyone. But if someone's interested in your book or interested in learning more about you, where do we go?
Oh, look, you can get on my website, www.hollydeane-johns.com.au. You can either order through my website. Oh, look, so many places carry the book. You know, Amazon's probably the main place that everybody knows. I've recorded my book on Spotify,
Yes.
so people can listen to me telling my story
Yeah.
on that platform. But yeah, just Google, really. It's available in so many places around the world.
Yeah. And look, I'll share that to make it super easy. Like I said, Holly, God, I could talk to you for hours, and because there's so much to your story that we just skimmed the surface. But I would
Yeah.
encourage everyone to go and read or listen to your story, like you said, on Audible, on Spotify, because it is well, it's one hell of a ride from your 7 years to where you are now. Um, I'm not sure I say congratulations on the book. I think that's probably, but I mean, I'm sure your journey, you probably reflect on it, and you should be proud because it's one hell of an inspiring story, Holly.
Oh, thank you. It means a lot. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for talking to us today.
No worries. Thanks, Joanna.